here in Newport Beach, California, looking at a really neat, just full of character 1941 Ford pickup. We're going to walk around and kind of give you a feel about it. It's a neat little pickup with good solid SoCal history. Belonged to two hot rodders here in SoCal over the years, and we're going to walk around and just kind of tell you what we know about it. It's powered by a flathead V8 that's been hopped up just a little bit. It has a 39 Lincoln Zephyr transmission, a Columbia 2-speed axle. So you can actually drive this one. It runs cool as a cucumber, but we'll spend some time underneath the hood and show you how it's dressed up and stuff. It runs perfectly. It's got age and patina. It's an older restoration, but you know, I don't think I'd want to change a thing. The particular owner right now brought it down to earth, and he used only the best guys to do it. In other words, lowered it a little bit, dropped axle, rear D-arc in the springs. That's Kennedy Brothers here in SoCal. Worked on that part of it, and he's just done some things refining it over the past 5 or 6 years or so. It belonged to a good friend of his for about 30 years prior to that. So it's got known history, and that gentleman used it to run around and get parts to work on his hot rods, and so it's just been a good solid SoCal truck. Again, go to spudsgarage.com, where we're going to have plenty of still photos. It has Steelies on it with radial tires now, so it's very much drivable. All the front suspension's when gone through and done right with a dropped axle, and we'll talk about that a little bit on the undercarriage video. They actually, you know, to do those right, you have to change the wishbones to a 35 range and so on and so forth, and just to get them right. They have juice brakes standard on the truck, so it has hydraulic brakes. Stock hydraulic brakes, Columbia 2-speed axle, just a neat little pickup. You're going to find the paint's a little bit dull, little chips, little touch-ups here and there, a little bit dull. It is dull, but it kind of gives it a neat feel. It's thin in areas, like right in here. It's the kind of patina that you really can't pay or buy. You know, you can try and duplicate it, but it's just got neat patina. Now, we have pictures of the truck prior to its restoration back in the early 80s or late 70s that show it as a very solid truck, and it looked to be an original red truck. The bedsides on this truck are just shocking. We're going to go around, and the doors and the cab's solid, so on and so forth, all stock in the dash, stock trim panels. The bottoms of the doors are nice. The running boards are beautiful. But you're kind of getting a feel as I walk around. You know, I'm talking a lot, but I always do, so you just have to get used to that. We're never any pressure if you give us a call. I inspect each one of these, every one of them in person, and I always dig rigs like this because, you know, character's everything. See, the floor pans here are just very nice. They're the same as over on the driver's side. It does have an iPod connection right here, so it's got some tunes in it. Seat belts. Just kind of run down to the hardware store, so on and so forth if you want, or throw a block in the back. Or the back end's been lowered by just de-arcing the springs just a little bit. Get this door. Door shuts actually very nicely. I just sometimes with my camera, boom, just like that. Didn't have to slam it. Nice little spare tire mount on the side. I believe Craig here added that to it since Mike had owned it. The bed sides on this are just really neat. You can see the bed sides limited to no dings on it, and there are pictures of it, again, pre-restoration or pre-1970s, 80s restoration in the file that's included with the truck. There's some neat stuff included. It's had little light touch-ups over the years. I think it had 39 Ford tail lights on it at one time, and Craig wanted them more like the stock feel, so that's been changed. But if you look at these gate chains and stuff, they're just Henry steel. The tailgate is just beautiful. There's nothing reproduction about it other than the new bed wood that's been put in it, and it's hard to, you'll see it's got all new wood in the bed. Since he's owned it about 5 years again after purchasing it from his friend's wife. And he spent about 12 grand on it. And he was a big Indian guy. That's where the Indian sticker in the back window is, and so on and so forth. But he had a bunch of cars in the hangar, and I got to sell a few cars for Mike. Just cute. So if you're looking for something perfect, this is not you. If you're looking for something that's nice to drive, you're not afraid of putting a little mark in it, then This is the baby. But look at the bed sites here. They're just beautiful. And I know I'm pointing out a lot of that, but that's, you know, that's the important part about these is that they're solid. You'll see just a little patina at the lead seam here, you know, so on and so forth, door edge chips, and the paint is faded and lacquer checked just a little bit, and you know, it's definitely not perfect paint. It would be an easy one to paint if you wanted to paint it, I can tell you that. Over on this side, you'll see it has the original seat base here. Floor pans underneath are just beautiful. Running boards are spectacular. And the dash is really sweet too. There's the overdrive for the Columbia 2-speed. We'll show you the Indian shifter knob, which is rare. Something Mike had on there. We'll tell you the whole story at Spud's Garage the best that we can. But basically, it's been in SoCal at least 35 years. Came out of a farm in Colorado where it had a restoration, a light restoration, cosmetic style restoration. It was on the back cover of early Ford Times in 1985. We have a picture of that. There's the dual water temp gauges. This thing runs really cool. I'll talk about that more in the engine compartment video. It's got a throttle and choke. These are dummies because it's got dual carbs on it. You don't need these two anymore, so those are just dummies, but it does have the iPod connection. We're going to start it up for you now. Show you all the gauges work. Steering lock and all that stuff works. 7,376 miles of the odometer reading at time of inspection. Fuel gauge is working. Water temperature gauges are there, twin for both heads. Been converted to 12 volts. What a neat little pickup. Anyway, this time we're going to tell you to get in. Hang on, look underneath the hood. Very nice. Just an original style truck that's been hot rodded or hopped up, as you'd call it. Has a 59 AB flathead V8. Runs like a Swiss watch. It just runs beautifully. There's two head temp gauges. I asked the owner about it. There's one here and there's one on the other bank, but there's also one for each side underneath on the dash. And most of the time it'll run 140 degrees or so. It never overheats. Hot summer day, it might get up to 155 a bank, but it just runs beautifully. It has an Edelbrock Super intake manifold, polished aluminum intake manifold. I believe that's vintage. It has two dual Stromberg 97 carburetors. It has Edmunds air filters, and I believe this is kind of Jenny stuff. It's not reproduction stuff. It has a sharp aluminum heads on it. Fenton headers down there, you can see it. It has dual exhaust. You can tell it's been updated to a 12-volt ignition system, so it's got a 12-volt generator here over on this side. Still has a lot of the cloth wiring in it that's been nice and tidied up. Now the Kennedy brothers have spent a lot of time reworking the suspension a little bit for him in the front, bringing this truck down to earth, but we'll cover a lot of that stuff with you. And you'll even notice it still has the crank-driven engine cooling fan, but it does run cool. Anyway, we're thinking you get the idea. The transmission, by the way, is a 39 Lincoln Zephyr Trans. We may have already said that earlier in the video. And hang on, we'll definitely have more. We'll fire this girl up for you and let you hear her run. Hang on to the end of the video. I just went in there and fired it up, and I wanted you to hear it run. Listen to that. We'll go to the back and let you hear it a little better. I don't know if you hear, but it's beautiful, just really super smooth. Now remember, it's cold. We just pulled it out of the shop. It runs great. Does have an electric assist fuel pump, so that when you start it after sitting in the shop, it's got a momentary switch. You hit it and it'll fill the carbs up and you can release it, but it still has a mechanical fuel pump. Anyway, let me walk to the back here. Sweet. Hang on to these. Take a look at the undercarriage here. Very nicely preserved. Non-split wishbones. That's a Columbia 2-speed rear end in it. It's fully functional Columbia 2-speed. The back end's been lowered by just de-arcing the springs by the Kennedy brothers here in SoCal. They actually lowered the whole truck because the owner wanted it just brought down to earth. Now, I've probably said that in earlier portions of the video, so you'll find me repeating myself. I take these in sections. Very solid truck. There's the Columbia 2-speed right there. All the bedwood's new in it. Has dual exhaust, Smitty style mufflers on it that runs to the back. It is rock solid from Colorado to California here. Now the front, they lowered the front by, the bones are not split on it at all. Kennedy brothers lowered the front, and you know what, gotta know how to do these right or they won't work right and the steering won't work right. In other words, you won't get full turn on it. So he took it to the Kennedy brothers, and what they did is they put a Super Bell dropped axle in it and reworked the spindles. But in order to do that, what they do is they actually put the wishbones out of a 35 Ford, which brings the pins in. Anyway, you get the idea there. We'll have more details at Spud's Garage where it comes to the truck, what it looked like before, years ago. But just a solid, good, solid driver. I know I probably said character 50 times, but this thing's just got sweet character. You can drive it, doesn't overheat. We're getting near the end of the video, so I'm cramming in a bunch of stuff. Give us a call anytime. We're never any pressure. There's the other side of the Columbia 2-speed. If you have an interest, we'll see what we can do to make it yours. Go to spudsgarage.com.